What happens when one of America's most trusted journalists sits across from one of the world's most polarizing royals under the focused lights of NBC nightly news? What was meant to be a revealing discussion soon turned into a clash of pride, sharp retorts, and rising tension. Meghan Markle entered determined to guide the narrative. Holt welcomed her with his signature professionalism, but within minutes the atmosphere shifted. A polite interview quickly became a test of patience, where silences spoke as loudly as words. This is how Meghan Markle's night with Holt unfolded live on national television. The studio carried an unusual stillness that evening. The set was pared down for a direct one-on-one exchange. No live crowd, no applause, just two chairs beneath soft but deliberate lighting. The rest of the room disappeared into a shadowy backdrop, giving the setting a weight that demanded attention. Holt, in his familiar dark suit and steady presence, stood to greet his guest. "Meghan, thank you for joining us tonight," he said, his voice calm and assured, the same voice that had earned the trust of millions. Meghan walked onto the set, her posture firm, chin slightly lifted. She offered a small, polished smile that felt more rehearsed and heartfelt. "It's always interesting to be part of these conversations," she said, her tone edged with caution, as though already preparing for the direction of the evening. They both sat, and as the cameras drew closer, the room felt frozen, as if time itself paused. Holt began gently. "You've built a new life here in the United States since stepping back from royal duties. How has that transition been for you?" A straightforward question. Meghan's eyes flickered, signaling impatience. "Transition? Lester, I didn't come here to adjust. I came here to live on my own terms. There's nothing to transition from when you finally stop being constrained. Perhaps people should stop framing my choices as an adjustment and recognize them for what they are, me being who I've always been." Holt absorbed the firmness in her reply, unshaken. "I understand. But I think many people are curious about how that shift feels, moving from a centuries-old institution into building your own path." Meghan tilted her head slightly, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "Why must it always return to the monarchy? Is there ever a conversation where I'm not tied back to that? I left. I moved on. Yet here we are, circling it again. Maybe it's time for the media to move forward too." "Lester," the temperature in the studio seemed to cool. Holt pressed ahead, calm as ever. "Fair enough. Let's turn to your family here. Then, you and Prince Harry are raising your children in California. How has parenthood shaped your perspective?" Meghan let out a short laugh, not of joy but dismissal. "Parenthood is parenthood. Do you want the fairy tale version? The perfect soundbite? Because if that's what you're looking for, Lester, you won't get it from me." Her voice was clipped, her expression firm. The audience at home couldn't feel the full weight of the moment, but Holt certainly did. He leaned back slightly, hands folded. "I wasn't looking for anything other than your perspective. People often appreciate hearing how public figures balance parenthood. That's all." Meghan shifted in her seat. "Inspiring? I don't live to inspire strangers. My children aren't for public consumption. They are not characters in some ongoing global story. They are my children. Full stop." Her words cut sharply, hanging heavy in the air. His jaw tightened ever so slightly, barely visible. Years of journalism had trained Holt to mask irritation, yet Meghan's tone carried an edge sharper than most difficult interviews he had conducted. Still, he held his composure, understood. "Let's move forward. Many Americans remain interested not only in your life now, but also in what you stepped away from. The royal family has been central to your story, whether you prefer it or not. Looking back, do you feel you may have underestimated the weight of marrying into such an institution for a brief moment?" Meghan froze. Her smile returned, but it was tight and unyielding. "You know, Lester, questions like that almost sound insulting. Did I underestimate? No, I knew exactly what I was stepping into. The real issue wasn't me misjudging the situation. The issue was everyone else underestimating me. Do you see the difference?" Her tone rose slightly at the end, half challenge, half explanation. Lester nodded, calm and steady. "I understand. The reason I ask is because..." But Meghan cut him off, her voice sharper now. "Because what? Because people can't believe I was strong enough to handle it? Or because you'd rather assume I was naive, too fragile? That's a story people cling to, that I wasn't tough enough. And I'm telling you, I was. The silence that followed was heavy. Lester adjusted his glasses and drew a measured breath. Thank you for clarifying, he said evenly, though with a firmer edge. The balance of the conversation was shifting. What began as a respectful exchange was becoming combative, and Meghan seemed willing to lean into that. The soft hum of the studio lights overhead filled the tense pause, and the space felt less like an interview set and more like a sparring ring. Holt glanced at his notes, grounding himself. Years in live broadcasting had taught him to manage difficult guests, but this was already veering into volatile territory. Meghan's shoulders squared, posture stiff, chin raised with defiance. Her eyes no longer conveyed discussion. They carried confrontation. Leaning forward slightly, Holt kept his voice calm. I appreciate your perspective, Meghan. Let me ask something more personal. Your relationship with Harry. Many viewers wonder how the two of you balance public pressure with private life. How do you support one another through it? It was meant as a softer question, yet Meghan's lips curled into a knowing smirk, almost rehearsed. Support? Lester, do you think we need pep talks like some reality show couple? Harry and I don't need to balance anything. We're not amateurs at life. People underestimate us constantly, as though we're barely holding it together. Honestly, it's insulting. Lester adjusted his glasses again, letting the words sit before responding. I didn't mean to imply that. My point was simply that many couples find strength in sharing challenges, and viewers at home might relate to that. Meghan leaned back, arms crossed, her voice cutting sharper. Viewers at home. Lester, I didn't come here to deliver a self-help lecture. My marriage isn't a case study for public consumption. Harry and I live our lives for ourselves, not for strangers to analyze. If people can't accept that, the problem isn't ours, it's theirs. The air in the studio thickened, the black backdrop pressing closer, amplifying each word. Lester lowered his gaze to his notes again, his movement slower now. He understood that every question risked escalation, but he continued with measured professionalism. Let's widen the focus. Then, you've spoken openly about your feelings toward the monarchy. Many remain curious. When you reflect, what are your thoughts on the institution you left behind? Meghan's eyes narrowed, her reply carrying a cold edge. The monarchy. Always back to the monarchy. You want to know what I think? It's outdated, antiquated, a gilded cage that traps everyone inside. People idolize it as though it's sacred, as if it represents something higher. But in truth, it's theater, a grand performance that consumes the people within it. Lester kept his expression neutral, though his fingers tapped faintly against his notepad. He had interviewed presidents, strongmen, and CEOs who tried to unsettle him, but Meghan's dismissive tone carried a different weight, one that felt deeply personal rather than political. Some might argue, he said carefully, that while flawed, the monarchy still hold cultural and historical value. Do you feel any responsibility for how your departure was received? Meghan let out a sharp laugh, laced with disdain. Responsibility. Lester, I'm not responsible for other people's fantasies. If the world chooses to cling to a fading institution, that's their choice. My only duty is to myself and my family. If that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Lester tilted his head slightly, his eyes narrowing just enough to register the rising tension. His voice stayed steady, but his patience was being tested. That I understand your frustration. But do you ever consider that the way you express yourself may sound dismissive to those who've admired you? Meghan straightened in her chair, her gaze firm. Dismissive? Or perhaps people just don't like hearing the truth. I'm not here to soften the edges, Lester. I'm not here to make everyone comfortable. If honesty unsettles people, maybe they should question why. The studio filled with silence, heavy, charged silence. Lester exhaled slowly through his nose, nodding as though weighing her words. Then he pivoted. Let me ask you this. Your late mother-in-law, Princess Diana, remains deeply beloved across the globe. Many draw parallels between her life and yours. Do you feel any connection to her legacy? The question landed hard. Meghan's jaw tightened, and she leaned forward slightly, eyes flashing. Diana's legacy doesn't need to be pulled into every conversation about me. Using her name like a prop is disrespectful. I'm not Diana. I never claimed to be. And honestly, though comparisons are lazy, she deserves better. Lester blinked, steady but edged now. I didn't mean to suggest you were her replacement. My question was whether you feel a connection. Given how she two-faced intense media scrutiny, Meghan's voice grew colder. Connection? Lester, do you want me to sit here and cry for the camera so you can shape a narrative? That's not going to happen. I don't need to use someone else's tragedy to justify my own story. Her words landed with force. Lester pressed his lips into a thin line, leaning back with his hands folded neatly. His calm demeanor remained intact, though small cracks showed. What began as an interview had shifted into a duel. Meghan's retorts weren't just offensive, they carried bite. And though Holt's patience was well known, it was clear he was nearing his limit. The studio lights seemed to hum louder, or perhaps it only felt that way. The black backdrop behind them made the space feel smaller, more charged, as though the room itself was bearing witness. This was no longer just an interview. It was confrontation, and viewers at home could sense that Lester shifted in his chair, posture upright, his tone measured but sharper now, designed to cut through Meghan's walls. Meghan, many people admire the courage it took to step away from the royal family. But they also notice that you and Harry have remained highly public. Netflix projects, interviews, memoirs. Some argue it appears less like leaving the spotlight and more like reshaping it. How do you respond? Meghan's lips pressed into a smile that never touched her eyes. Her reply came quick, laced with disdain. Rebranding? That's a tabloid word. Lester, I'm not a product. I don't owe anyone silence because I left an outdated system. If people can't accept that I tell my story on my terms, that's their problem, not mine. Lester nodded slowly, but pressed further. But once your story is made public, doesn't that invite scrutiny? And accountability? Her eyes narrowed. Accountability. Interesting how that word always means holding me accountable, never the system that hurt me. Convenient, isn't it? Her words carried sting, but Lester held steady. His voice, though, now carried greater weight. Accountability works both ways. If serious claims are made about an institution, it's fair to also examine the person making them. Isn't that part of honest dialogue? Meghan leaned forward, chin lifted defiantly. Honest dialogue? This isn't honesty, it's interrogation. I came here believing NBC wanted to discuss my work, my advocacy. Instead, it's the same tide cycle. The monarchy, Diana, accountability, over and over. Maybe it's the media that need to answer for its obsession. Her words lingered, heavy. Lester let the silence stretch, knowing silence itself can speak volumes. Then, finally, he said, his tone calm but firmer now. I think viewers would say these aren't obsessions. They are context. They are part of your story, whether you welcome them or not. Meghan scoffed, letting out a sharp laugh that echoed in the quiet studio. Context? Or maybe it's just laziness. It's easier to recycle old stories and actually recognize who I am today. But maybe that's asking too much, isn't it? Lester, for the first time, a flicker of tension showed on Lester's face. Subtle, just a tighter jaw, a slight narrowing of his eyes, but noticeable. He straightened in his seat, voice even lower. I've spoken with world leaders, activists, survivors of tragedy. They didn't dismiss questions as laziness. They engaged. They opened up. They valued the dialogue. That's what this space is for. Meghan's tone cut sharper. Oh, so now I'm being compared to them? You want me to perform gratitude just to sit here? I don't need this platform. Lester, I'm not chasing NBC's approval. The air grew heavy. The buzz of the lights seemed louder, shadows on the backdrop darker. Meghan's words came clipped, defensive, laced with pride. Lester's patience was clearly thinning, though professionalism kept him steady. He weighed his next question, voice quieter but weighted. Let's talk about your husband. Many respect Prince Harry for stepping away with you, but others say he gave up far more. His family, his role, his country. How do you see his journey? Meghan's eyes flashed, her posture stiff. Harry made his choice because he's strong enough to stand with me. Don't twist it like I pulled him away. He isn't some lost prince who wandered off track. He's a man who saw reality and acted. If people can't respect that, it speaks about them, not us. Lester leaned back, expression tight. Do you ever feel your voice overshadows his, that your story is seen as larger than his? That struck a nerve. Meghan's face hardened, tone icy. Overshadows? Maybe people just aren't used to a woman leading the story instead of standing quietly at the side. Maybe the issue is that people can't accept a woman owning her own narrative, her words carried like a challenge, filling the studio with a tension that seemed almost visible. Lester drew a deep breath, his patience stretched thin. He spoke slowly, measured. No one questions your right to tell your story. What people question are the contradictions. Rejecting the monarchy yet profiting from its name. Demanding privacy yet signing deals that showcase your private life. These contradictions matter. Meghan fired back instantly, her voice rising. Contradictions? Or maybe complexity. But nuance doesn't sell, does it, Lester? You'd rather cast me as a villain. It makes better television. For the first time, Lester's calm edge cracked. His brows knit, lips pressed tight. He didn't cut her off, but the silence afterward was sharper than words. The room felt on the brink of breaking. Meghan sat rigid, defiant. Lester's composure remained, but just barely. This was no longer an interview. It was a standoff, and the audience could feel it. The studio seemed to hold its breath. Lester Hall sat upright, veteran composure intact, but cracks beneath the surface. Across from him, Meghan Markle leaned back, chin high, posture bold. As if daring the moment, Lester cleared his throat, trying once more to steady the exchange. His voice calm, professional. Meghan, let me be clear. This isn't an ambush. These questions come from accountability, something you've often said matters to you. So let me ask directly. Do you believe the choices you and Harry made have brought you closer to the peace you've spoken of? Meghan let out a short, sharp laugh. Peace? She echoed. I don't think the media even understands peace. And frankly, Lester, I'm not here to feed the curiosity of people who've built careers dissecting me. Peace is mine whether others recognize it or not. Her words struck like blows, each one edged with superiority. Lester nodded slowly, jaw set. He glanced at his notes, then back up, voice firmer now. And yet here you are, another program, another interview. Some might say if peace were truly yours, you wouldn't keep returning to the spotlight. For the first time, Meghan's mask slipped. Her lips pressed into a hard line, eyes narrowed. Some might say, you're proving exactly why people like me need to speak. Because otherwise, all that's heard are the same recycled headlines from people like you. The words spark like fire on dry kindling. Lester exhaled slowly, set his notes aside, and leaned forward. His voice dropped low, edged with steel. Enough, Meghan. I've given you space. I've tried to keep this respectful. But the arrogance, the dismissiveness, the tone you've taken tonight, this isn't just difficult, it's insulting. Not to me, but to the viewers who expected honesty, not hostility. The statement landed heavy. Meghan blinked, clearly caught off guard by Lester breaking form. For a beat, silence hung. Then she shot back, her voice sharp, insulting. Lester? What's insulting is being dragged through the mud year after year, and then being told I should sit here and smile politely while you challenge my every word. I don't need this. That Lester's voice rose, not in volume, but in authority. It cut through the room with a gravity that left no room for argument. No, Meghan. What you don't need is to treat every real question as an attack. What you don't need is to act as though you're beyond accountability. You say you despise the monarchy, yet your entire platform rests on the fame it gave you. You say you want privacy, yet you take multi-million-dollar deals that showcase your life. That isn't courage. That isn't authenticity. That's hypocrisy. Meghan froze, her face pale under the lights. For once, she had no quick reply. Her lips parted, but no words came. Lester pressed forward, his tone steady. You talk about truth, about standing in your power. But the truth is, without Harry, without the title you claim to despise, you wouldn't be sitting here. Tonight, you haven't spoken as a leader or advocate, but as someone acting entitled, as if the world owes you special treatment. It doesn't. The silence that followed was deafening. The buzz of the light seemed louder, the backdrop darker. Meghan's eyes widened, stunned. She clutched the edge of the sofa, composure slipping. You can't speak to me like that, she whispered, voice shaking. Lester didn't flinch. I just did. And I did it because the viewers deserve honesty. This interview cannot continue. Not like this. You've disrespected the platform, the conversation, and frankly, yourself. Meghan stood abruptly, blazer falling against her shoulders. She grabbed her things in sharp, hurried motions, face flushed with anger. Fine, she snapped, voice cracking. If this is what you wanted, congratulations. I won't sit here and be humiliated. Her heels struck the studio floor in hard clicks as she strode toward the exit. Cameras followed until the director cut away. The sound of the door shutting reverberated like a gavel ending a trial. Lester stayed seated, exhaling slowly, his composure returning. He turned to the camera, voice calm, measured. Ladies and gentlemen, I owe you an apology. What you just witnessed was not what we intended. This was meant to be a dialogue, a chance for Meghan to share her view. Instead, it became something else entirely. And for that, I regret how it ended. Respect must go both ways. Tonight, it didn't. He paused, letting the words settle, then gave a faint shake of his head. We'll be right back. The screen faded to black, but the moment was already etched into memory, an interview not remembered for clarity, but for collapse. Meghan had walked out, yet Lester's words echoed long after. If you found this story compelling, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive breakdown. Your support keeps these stories alive.